General Keller, the Senate support for the New START treaty was tied to modernization of the United States nuclear complex and strategic delivery system. And specifically during the Senate confirmation, the President committed to modernization in what became known as the 1251 plan that was incorporated in the 2010 NDAA. Isn't that right?
Senator, yes.
Okay. And if you look at that commitment in the 1251 plan, there was an initial plan submitted in May of 2010, and then a month before the ratification of the Senate treaty, there was $4.1 billion added over 5 years to the plan. Isn't that right?
Yes. You're talking about the DOD
yes.
money.
But that was specifically reflected a month before the ratification of the START treaty, put into the 1251 plan as incorporated in the 2010 NDAA.
Senator, I think that's right. That's a little before my time, but I think that's right.
Okay. And the reason that was done is because modernization was such an important issue to getting that treaty through the United States Senate. And because modernization is very, very important for our nuclear program. Isn't that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, the 2013 budget request underfunds the commitment made that was expressly made in conjunction with the ratification of the START treaty by over $4 billion over the next 5 years. Isn't that the case?
It is not. It is lower than the level of the 1251 report. Yes, it is.
It's $4 billion lower, roughly.
I think that's right. Yes.
Okay. Which the President, a month before ratification, to get the Senate to sign on to the reductions in the START treaty, added $4 billion because we were so worried. I wasn't here at the time, but I know many of my colleagues were very worried about modernization of the program if we were going to make the reductions required by the START treaty. And if the President is not following through, why didn't we include the $4 billion in the commitment on modernization? And in particular, just to break that down, Senator Nelson had asked you about the chemical and metallurgy research replacement facility. That's an 83% cut in that facility. In fact, we're not following through at all in our commitment to that facility, are we?
Well, the commitment's been delayed. If I understand the budget correctly, the building has been slipped to the right 5 to 7 years, I believe was the number. Would
that not be a broken promise from what was required by the 2010 NDAA and what was specifically contained within the 1251 plan?
Well, it's certainly different than the 1251 plan, yes, clearly.
Well, if my colleagues signed on to the START treaty concerned about modernization with a commitment from the administration of a certain level of resources, particularly this facility that we've talked about, the CMRR facility, is critical, is it not, to modernization?
Yes, it is.
So no doubt that we need it to modernize.
In the long run, there is no doubt we need it.
Okay. And so when you were being questioned by Senator Nelson, you said you owe us questions. I mean, you owe us answers to this.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
I guess I would reframe it. I think what we need is a commitment from the administration to follow through on what they promised in conjunction with the ratification of the START treaty, because without modernization of our nuclear deterrent, what are the concerns that you have if we don't modernize?
Well, I have a lot of concerns if we don't modernize. I think you have to look at this in terms of, there are 4 pieces to this from my vantage point anyway. Piece number 1 is the delivery systems, and I just mentioned that there are modernization plans in place for the delivery systems, or there's a study underway to take a look at the ICBM leg and what we might need as we go to the future. There's command and control and commitment to both of those. The real issue for me is the weapons end of this and the weapons complex that supports those. In an era that we are in today, without nuclear explosive package testing, where we don't do any yield testing, that puts a strain on the industrial base in a way that I believe hasn't been strained in the past. It strains the science and engineering skills that we have to make sure that as we do life extensions, that we have the appropriate science basis and understanding to be able to do those extensions without nuclear testing. We have issues with aging. Most of the problems with the weapons that we have today is that they're reaching the end of their lifetimes in various stages. And so being able to have life extension for those weapons is also very important. At the end of the day, if you have a more modern complex, we think that we probably can have a smaller stockpile because the way we would hedge against failure would be different as we go to the future.
But if we just reduce our stockpile and we don't modernize, aren't we taking on additional risk?
I think that there are scenarios there where that can be additional risk, yes.
Okay. Well, I certainly would like to know why, as reflected in the DoD 13 budget, the administration has not followed through on its commitment to modernization, because I think that was critical, as I understand it, toward many individuals around here. They were concerned about that in the debate over the START treaty, and so it was a very important issue, and that's why it was specifically incorporated and tied to the START treaty in the 2010 NDAA. I would hope you would take that for the record and get back to us on that.
We'll certainly do that. Fully understand the concern, recognizing that nothing was immune when we went through the budget reduction to include the nuclear force. I believe that we balanced the investments in much of the portfolio. It doesn't look like the 1251 report, but I think we balanced much of it. What concerns me the most, I think, is the industrial complex.
Okay, thank you very much. I also wanted to